Okay, great. Okay, so what I am going to do today is give everybody a bit of an intro to an alternate photo editing software where you don't have to pay a monthly subscription fee. And this is sometimes something that can be helpful to people because there are a number of people out there that are trying to figure out how to do their photo editing, but they don't want to spend the $120 or more a year to do Adobe. The other thing is sometimes the Adobe software, Lightroom and Photoshop can be a little intimidating. So they're looking for something that's a little simpler, maybe a little bit more of a one-click. And I'll offer to you that this Luminar 4, and there's several Luminars, but the Luminar 4 is the one that I've seen that is close to Lightroom, but doesn't have the monthly subscription fee. You pay a one-time fee, and you have the license. Now, as far as updates, you may have to pay for a fee down the road. That was similar to other software. But there are a couple of what they call AI or artificial intelligence features that are associated with Luminar products that can be attractive for people that struggle with doing more advanced editing that would be associated with Lightroom and Photoshop. So I'm going to kind of walk you through this, use some of my examples as a file and show you what's good and hopefully let you make your own mind. I did have a link to a discount that would allow you to have this along with another Skylum feature that's called Aurora that does HDR. So you'd have HDR and then you'd have Luminar, and it was like you get 2 for 1. I'll see if I can get that and post that or send that out as a MailChimp for paid members so they can get that link if they want it. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Does anybody have any questions before I share my screen? Because it'll be hard for me to see everybody. So that's another thing, David. If you can monitor the chat and if you see people raising their hand or whatever, I won't be able to see them while I'm sharing my screen, okay? Anybody have any questions before I get started? Amy has a question, but you need to unmute, please.
Do you know what the one-time fee is?
Yeah, currently for a Luminar 4, it's $99.
Okay.
Yeah. $99.
Thank you.
Yep. And I believe the package was you got Aurora and Luminar for $99, which I did take advantage of. I'll have to go and see if I can still get you guys that advantage because I got through somebody I went on a workshop with, and I'll see if it's still available, but I can't make any promises, but it's still very competitive and very attractive. So, okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And I guess okay, so hopefully, help me out, folks. Is this something where you're seeing my screen that shows Luminar? Because I want to make sure everybody can see full screen.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you a bit of a tour of how this works. And I'll probably compare it to Lightroom because that's something where a lot of people, I just realized, let's see, I got to figure out how to hide some of the sharing elements. Oh boy. Okay, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me because the Lightroom is wait a minute, let me see if I can. Oh no, oh, I'm trying to get it so that I can show. Oh, it's only doing the. It's funny. Okay, so the way the structure of this panel is, and hopefully all the Zoom stuff doesn't get in my way. Oh, wait a minute, I just figured out a way to work around this. I think. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how so you can see. There's parts of the panel I'm trying to show, and they're covered up by the Zoom bar, and I'm trying to figure out how to move it. It won't let me. Okay, good. So you guys can still see my application. So along the top, there are several features which are covered that I can't show you, but one of them is a before and after. Oh my God, I'm trying to figure it out. And then there is a thing that shows you like your panel of photos, which would be like the gallery view in Lightroom, and then you could show individual. So so the left side is showing the photos that I've imported. The bottom is showing the looks that I can apply. So unlike Lightroom, there isn't a real big distinction between the gallery view and the develop view. They're kind of all mashed together. So you've got that. And so this is kind of your gallery view that if you're used to Lightroom, and this is your individual image that you picked on view. And then if you continue to the right, you see here, there's their library. And this would be like the file menu that's in the gallery view. So it shows what photos I've uploaded by month, okay? And it shows those kinds of things. It also shows, I could pick recently edited, recently added. I can also pick single image edits. So it's got all these elements. I can just go back to all photos. It's thinking, sorry. Oh, there we go. I'm back to all my, so the way I can start and edit is I can either come up to the plus key. Hopefully I need to check and see if people can see my screen because I've got part of it's hidden for me. So it's a bit of a struggle for me. Can you see where there's a plus key on the top left? That allows me, I can add a folder or I can add single images. And this would be a way that if you wanted to make Luminar your file handling, you could, because you could add folders like if you were keeping all your photos by date, you could add all your 2021 photos or 2022 photos, and it would create a folder that's like on the over here on the right when I show the library, right? There's my 2021 photos, and it's showing them by when they were in October, November, December. Does that make sense to everybody? David, you gotta tell me if it's making sense because they're on mute, right? So that's that piece. Now the next piece that I'm going to go into is editing. So right next to the library element is the edit key. And so I can take and pick an individual picture. Let's take, for instance, this picture. And here's where the power comes in, is that it still shows my histogram of what the image looks like from editing standpoint. It tells me I can add a layer. So if I wanted to do multiple, I can do multiple editing. This is the layers, and then this is canvas, which it means that I can do my clone stamping to take out elements, and I can take and erase elements. It also allows me to do lens corrections, which is an important element. Auto distortion. Because this was a wide angle shot, you can see how the distortion was corrected by hitting that. Chromatic aberration I found is a huge importance, because when you get out to this edge here, you might not be able to see it, but if you get out to that edge right there and then you go off, there's like a little green halo along here. And then I add that in and it'll take that green halo, it'll minimize it. Okay, so those are good examples of that kind of work. So that's important. It allows you to all the things that you're kind of used to playing with, the vignetting. It allows you to do, you can see I can do transformations. So like if I had a architectural structure, right? I can do that. I can rotate, I can do the aspect. So those are common things. I can also, this is at the point when I can do my crop. So I can come in here and do a crop, and it can show aspect ratio, which is similar to Lightroom. You'd have aspect ratio. So you can go in there and say, well, I want it to be a 5:7, and it'll give you a preview, and then you can come in and do your different edits, right? So that's handy. So you can see there's a lot of similarity to the kind of things that we would do in Lightroom or Photoshop, okay? And then the back arrow basically completes all that stuff. And now if I want to go into your editing features, so this is your classic editing features. This, if you're a Lightroom user, this is very complementary to the kind of workflow that you've seen in Lightroom, where you start out with, you have well, in this case, they have a profile. But here's one of the things that is super fun and super easy for somebody that might not want to invest all the time with a lot of the editing features here. They have presets. So I can literally go on this photo and I come along here in the bottom left, and these are the Luminar looks. So this is an artificial intelligence image enhancer. So it takes an image that probably I had shadow detail, but it wasn't quite popping. And then you can see I had atmospheric detail, but it doesn't show up until I do that. So you got that. It could show you give you a preview of what a black and white would look like. Contrast, haze removal, mood. I mean, they have different, basically these are presets, okay? So, this is where I see Luminar being very helpful for people that are intimidated or challenged by using Lightroom or using Photoshop, in that a lot of times they kind of want to just kind of plug in a few things and then tweak them, right? So you could take this and then tweak it by going over here to the adjustments.
Regs?
Yes,
Yeah, we have a question.
sure.
And I also want to mention a lot of these tools are similar also to On1 Raw, if anybody has investigated that. But we have a question. One of the new features of Lightroom Classic is the ability to create mask. For example, being able to selectively edit the sky via a mask.
Correct.
Will Luminar do the same?
Yeah, so Luminar is not quite up to the speed of the auto selection of Lightroom, but it does have, if I go to layers, okay, and I add a layer, okay, it does allow me to do, I'll add a new image layer, okay. Didn't want to do that, sorry, my bad. I'll add a new adjustment layer, and then I can do the edit mask, and I can do a gradient, and then I can come down here, and now I've created a mask. This is very similar to the neutral gradient filter that we're used to, and I'm sorry, and I can now take that mask, and I can watch what I can do. I can go, so I can take all that and do, you see, and it's only really affecting that space. Now, if I want to refine it, I can go back to the mask, and I can go to mask, and I can probably look at the luminosity, and what it'll do, this is one thing that's very interesting when we do some of our elements, is it'll look at luminosity, so it'll apply a luminosity mask to what I've just done. Now it might take a minute, so apologies, but is that the kind of question that you're asking? So if you look at it, so it's now applying it And then you, just like in that, you can back it off too, see? So I could take it and back it off. Okay, so that's that. And I can hide the layer, I can duplicate it, I can rename it, I can blend it. So I can do this is another thing that if you're familiar with Lightroom and Photoshop. Now, this isn't even in Lightroom, but in Photoshop, you can do what they call soft light masking, and see it's showing you previews of everything as we do it. So you could play with these and figure out what's working for you. So I won't claim to be an expert in this area, but that is my answer to that question. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to delete that layer. So if you go in, this is your, as I said, this is your clone stamp. So like if you needed to remove a brush or a tree, you would use this clone stamp and you would go in there. Let's see if this will play nice. So, okay, so see it says click to set source. So I would click and then I would go. So it's very similar. I mean, I'm a big clone stamp user, and then you'd hit done. So it's nice to know that the clone stamp is much more like Photoshop than it is like than it is like Lightroom, because I'm not a big fan of the erasure tool in Lightroom. So this is very similar, as you can see, it's very similar to that. The editing elements, as you can see, are, you know, you can do the white balance, you can have as shot, you could do a quick, you could do a temperature adjustment. So like you could warm it up, right? I mean, these are all techniques we're all pretty used to with other editing tools. You can do a global, these are global adjustments, right? So you're doing a global adjustment on this. And this is where you're taking control of your own. Now, okay, I'm going to fly with that, and then I'm going to take, and then you got, they do a smart contrast. So they literally try to look at areas, you know, where it's at. So they got that. You got your highlights and shadows. Most people all say that that's good. They also have a, oh gosh, what is the name of this thing? And they have your whites, so you could pump up your whites or degrade your whites. You could pump up your blacks or degrade, you know, use that as another way. This is a tool that's used in oh gosh, what's the name of this, David?
Tonal curve, tonal curve.
Tonal curve, yeah. And so it also has a global one, and you can also do it with greens. So you could take greens and you could go, okay, I'm gonna take, you know, mess with the greens. But you know, so, you know, I guess I just wanted to show that's your basics, and then, but it keeps going. So it has this is the artificial. So in this case, you can take and you could do a sky enhancer all by itself, and you can bring it up as much as you want. So this is designed specifically. So you can see this is starting to look a lot like the preset we had. That was the AI image enhancer. So if I do an AI enhance, I can do what the preset did, but I can do it manually. So this is kind of nice because it you know, it takes everything that you want to do, and you can still apply it. Like you could do it as a brush and brush in certain areas, or you could do a radial mask or gradient mask. So you could do layers, and you could do a global adjustment and then go back with this. So this has many of the really cool features that I would say are kind of a hybrid between Photoshop and Lightroom. You have a structure. So now this is where you're getting, like, if you want to get crunchy, and this is an area where, you know, people can be a little bit overdone with editing, is they'll put too much crunch. It's too much crunchy, and you can boost it. And again, you can this is really neat. You can do what we call local adjustments by using a brush or a radial mask, which is like a large brush, and then the gradient mask I showed you earlier. So very cool in that, Luminar has given you a lot of the powerful features that you'd be used to seeing if you were a Adobe user, but they're in kind of like one stop instead of having to do edits in Lightroom and then go to edits in Photoshop and back. You can do these, but these are examples where you got color, saturation, and vibrance. Those are all things we would expect. And then again, now this is one of my favorite panels in that I use the HSL panel all the time in Lightroom. In there, and I only want to bump up the saturation on the green, or I want to desaturate the green so it's not so powerful, right? But these would be examples where you can bring up like the green in the water and that kind of stuff. And that's a very powerful tool in Lightroom, and it's a very powerful tool here as well.
Rex?
Yeah, David.
Yeah, so now you're sort of adjusting the hue there, but also then there's a question with clarity or focus, or say soft focus. I think I saw some of your tools in there, so you have control of all these same.
Yeah, and some of those you're talking about are going to be in the earlier, right? So some of those elements you talked about earlier. And the way you navigate is you open up an individual panel and it closes the other panel. So it's, where in Lightroom panels will stay open, in this case, they don't. So, and then there's a black and white element. So again, this is kind of a one-stop shop. You can do it by, you can do a single convert, or you can take, and if you look at now all the greens, this used green as a way to turn basically desaturate the photo to a black and white. So, there's techniques here you can use. And again, you can use that back arrow to recover wherever you had. Okay.
Rex?
And then here's a thing I'm glad to see is that, yes, they have a sharpen, but they have a small, medium, and large details. This is something that Lightroom just added with texture and I can't remember the second one, but then your classic sharpen. But it's very important to recognize that you don't, global sharpening isn't necessarily what you want. You might want to just do the small details and bring out, the details of the rock or something, And remember, my computer will lag a little bit here, so so you can see that's overdone, right? That's why when you do sharpening, you should zoom in to see your sharpening. But you can bring this back, and then but that shows you, where you're at. Like if you wanted to get things sharpened, okay?
Rex, question?
Sure.
And I don't know if you'll be covering it. Does this allow for any keywording? Like Lightroom, you can go in and put in keywording.
No,
Okay.
What you would have to do is you'd have to manage your folders and everything. You probably manage it that way in how you upload your file. And then what I do see is that in the library module, you'll see that you can get like, your year and your month, and then it would show what day, and that's about it. Okay. And, that's probably one of the areas that if you really want that, you'll probably want to go with something like Lightroom, because Lightroom, that is one of the more powerful elements of Lightroom. It was really designed to be a hierarchy organizer for your photos. And this is really more about the editing, and it kind of crosses between Lightroom and Photoshop.
What's under info?
So it shows me what camera was shot on. It shows me my metadata, basically.
Doesn't show you all of it.
Right.
We'll let you edit it.
Right. Okay. Good question, though. That was a great question. So then moving to denoise, this would be where you would do your noise element, and very similar to Lightroom, Photoshop. The thing that's nice here is again, it has the ability, you could apply the noise to a brush. And many advanced Lightroom and Photoshop people will say they don't do noise
Painting.
reduction to everything. They only do it to the areas they want. And so this would give you a tool where you could literally go in here and say, and you could just go like, you should be able to go kind of like that, and it'll denoise that area. Now, again, this tool, you can see this is a fairly computational intensive element with all, and so you could literally go, yeah, so I basically have applied denoising to that zone right there with that tool, okay? So I just wanted to give you an idea of how some of these tools will work. But the other thing that comes in, because it's artificial intelligence enhanced, it has a landscape enhancer. So here's our lovely, everybody that owns Lightroom loves the dehaze. So here's the ability to apply dehaze. And then guess what? They can throw in a little softness for golden hour, and it has a foliage enhancer. So, but you can see, all things that can be overdone, right? So foliage enhancer is a pretty intense little thing. The dehaze, though, is probably pretty similar to what we're used to. With that foliage enhancer is really making this photo crazy. But I just wanted to be aware. And then you can take the foliage hue and go, let's see what it does. So that should make it a little more one way or another, or you can bring it down here and make it very, so it has some interesting elements here that would be potentially very handy without having to go a lot of things. Remembering that all the time, if you're a newbie on this, you could go and you could just use this this save look, right? And go, wow, that's done. Or take the save look and then use some of the elements to fix it, right? It also has vignette, which we're all used to using quite a bit, I'm sure. So it has a vignette and it has a size. But here's the cool thing, that unlike Lightroom, where it kind of keeps it centered, you could say, I want the vignette to be centered around that rock. And then it will, well, let me pick another spot. You could say that you want the vignette centered way over here, and then watch it's going to vignette, and so it's vignetting. It's hard to see because it's very, well, here we go. This is better. See how it took the vignette off center? It's more centered around this area. That's something that really is more of a Photoshop skill. Photoshop allows for this changing of the vignette. Lightroom has some of this, but this is super easy, right? So that's kind of like your basic edit. I'm going to transition into some of the what I would call artistic elements. And the one thing I didn't get to show you, because on the top here, there is a element that you can click on and you will be able to see a before and after. So you could literally, it'll be like a wiper, and you could have that engaged so you could do your edit and then wipe it over and then compare it to the unedited photo, which that's, to me, very powerful that you would have that option to be able to see an A/B comparison, especially if you're saying, wow, my edit's a little too strong here. How do I get this back to where I want it, Okay. So then I'm going to move into the artistic element of a landscape.
Question before you go there.
Sure.
Are edits non-destructive? Is this like Lightroom? You're editing a raw and you can always, you just go back to your original?
You can, yes. What happens is,
These have sidecar files?
Yeah, because I round trip with this using Lightroom, so I hadn't explored this, but when I was reading a review on Luminar 4, it did say it was non-destructive. The other thing is, like Lightroom, you have this reset adjustments on the bottom right here. And so I can hit that, and everything I did in the photo is going to go away. All the edits are gone now. Okay, so I'm back to what I started with. So if you feel like you got, and plus you can rate the photos. So this is probably something that's important to note, is I didn't notice this before, but you can rate the photo a 5-star, you can give it a pick, you can give it a color rating, which for me personally, that's huge, because if I use, well, if you weren't using Lightroom, if you're using photo mechanics, if these came in, you could rate these, and then in photo mechanics, you could sort them. In Lightroom, if I rate them, or I can rate them here, then I would be able to see them with different ratings and different color characteristics, which that's really important to me, as much as important as keywording. I use keywording a lot though too. So I'm going to transition to the creative element, and this is for landscape. There is also a creative element for portraits that I'll get into if time allows. Okay, does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to, I'm going to pick another photo here. So I'm picking another photo. I'm in the creative mode. So here's a great example. We all run into this, and you can see, you know, here's, I could do things that look a little weird. You know, it shows you, you know, some of this might help, and it's a one and done. But, you know, there's a lot of times when, you know, you're out shooting and you didn't have the best day, but you had something you felt was really worth working with. And the sky replacement is one of the things that most people say is one of the more powerful tools in Luminar. And it does exist in Photoshop. And but, you know, people say this one is super easy for people. So it has the ability to change where it blends on the horizon. It has the horizon position, how the scene is lit, and the sky global. But so let me show you what we're talking about here. So you can go in and you can load a custom image, okay, of your own sky. And I would encourage people, when you're shooting, you have a particularly great day, go out and just shoot a picture of the skies and keep them in a file for yourself, because these kinds of tools are only getting better and better, and you probably would love to use your own sky when you do a sky replacement. But I'll show you some of the things that are example. So here's, I can take a photo that was kind of on, you know, now this wouldn't work, but it'll show you the facts. So I got a gray water with a blue sky. Everybody's going to know that that's a sky replacement, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to dramatic, and all of a sudden now the gray is kind of looking better. And then I will look at, you know, so this has a bit of a potential being pulled off. I'm trying to remember the one I used. Let's see. So you can see there are all these elements, and I'll show you how you can edit them once I pick one. Now this one, I would have expected a little more in the water. Let me see what we got down here. No, but you can see this is a great little. I mean, these are great little loads, even if you don't have your own. Oh, I had one. I kind of forgot where it's at. But so you had this one. I guess let me offer, so you can see that the white in the lighthouse is getting kind of messed up. But what you can do, let's see, it's not here. I think it's the luminosity. Let me verify this. The luminosity should go in, and what it did, see, it recovered most of the exposure there. But what you can do now is you can now also move the position of the sky So it helps that too. So see, now I was able to move the sky up. Okay. And now the lighthouse doesn't look janky. Okay. Let's see. And then, so you have these blending elements you can get involved with. So it's blending that horizon, because that's really the hard part. So you play with that to blend it in, and you see I had a fairly clean horizon. That's why I picked this image. And you have the relighting. So what I'll do is, well, I'm not sure. And then you got the sky global. So it's creating more contrast into the element. You know, it created some other elements in there. So you've got little pieces in here you can play with. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that they have these little flip things. I'm going to show this later, but let's see what this does here. So it literally flipped the sky, which might be advantage for you, because if the sky was showing, like in this case, I don't mind it because it's showing the sun from the left. But if I wanted the sun from the right, I'd hit the flip, you see? And now the sun is coming more from the right, stage right. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? Probably not, but hopefully okay.
Now, Rags,
Yeah,
where the building is, it looks like when it grabbed that sky, it's grabbing similar colors. Since you had white in the building, can you erase just that little bit of that mask where the building is?
yeah, so that might be where you need to, I was trying to do it with the one touch with the luminosity. That's what I've used in the past. But you may have to, let's see, if you use the brush.
Do they have an erase?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, sorry. I'm not exactly sure.
More refined, okay, than your.
Yeah. But I guess the point is that in general, this is a very powerful way to add a little different sky to your element here. But you do have to watch out for the white elements in, because like in red and the flag, you can see that, you can see the flag and everything looks pretty good. And even the horizon looks pretty good. You don't got, I'm not getting what I wanted. Okay, oh, here we go. Yeah, so you can see how it matched in with the flag and the red and along the horizon. You don't have some aberrations or remnants. You still, like you say, you have a little bit of it going in here, and it is a mask, so you should be able to. This would be where you might do the masking that I showed earlier in the up here, and then you do the sky replacement with the mask, and then you could just erase that portion of the mask. That would be how I'd handle that. Okay.
Good.
Good. And let's see. So then IA. So this one is, so this is kind of the funny part. And I think I'll take another photo here. Let's see. Yeah, let's do this one. So in this element, let's see. So this element, you might be in a situation where you want to, let's say I had, well, let's see. I want to fix something here. So it has the landscape enhancer. So I'm going to give this a little more golden hour. See how it kind of warmed everything up a little bit for golden hour. And I'm going to dehaze because I like that, right? And then I don't think I'm going to do foliage enhancer because it's pretty good the way it is. Then I'm going to go into this, and in sky replacement, I'm going to look at well, not sky replacement, sorry. Augment. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put an array in there. So I'm going to place the sun And instead of it being here, I'm going to put it over here. I might even put it off screen. And then I'm going to go this, and then you see what it did? Even though I wasn't out at sunrise, I can create, okay, I know this is artistic, okay, so please forgive me, but it's, you know, I can create a bit of side lighting that I can make it like, wow, I got God rays. I can move the sky, this guy up, see? And I can literally, by moving it even off, I can just give it a kiss of sunlight, and I can make the rays long or short, like, you know. But what's kind of nice about it is that it gives you the opportunity to take a photo where you might not been able to get out at break of dawn, and you might be able to, you know, for good or bad, and the good or bad of the empire, you could make this however you want. But I particularly like it that I can put it off to the side and give it some side lighting. Does that make sense to everybody?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's an example of that. Let's see, what else have I got? Oh, here we go. So I'm back here, and then, but I don't have to use sunlight. I can, here's an example where I can put okay, I can literally put a balloon in there, and you can, oh, sorry. And then what you can do is you can place the object. So I can take the object, move it around, okay? And then to make it believable, I can make it smaller maybe. And here's the other thing that I think is important is that, let's see, place the object. Oh, here we go. I can see how the light is on the right, but yet the sun is on the left. This is where it's super cool that you can flip the object. And what did it do? It put the lit part of the balloon towards where the sun is. So now that just becomes that much more believable, right? So this is super fun. I mean, you know, sometimes you think about it, we get into situations and we can't, you know, we want, you know, our scene just isn't feeling like we wanted. So you could, oh, wrong spot, sorry. You know, so sometimes we want some birds, right? So we can place the birds. So there's a bunch of birds coming out, you know. And I know Ann Kennedy really had recently, she had a really cool opportunity where she showed that. But that shows where you could have, you know, you could just, it's just an artistic license you're taking to your photo. I would encourage you to say that you did do it so people know, you know, how you did it. But it shows you how you have all these elements that you can get into in here, like you get lightning on a clear day. Okay, you gotta laugh, right? Okay, and then you throw, oh, now we're in the Rocky Mountains. How cool is that? So yeah, it's just kind of, I just think it's kind of fun. And I think if you add a few extra elements, but the key thing here, I would say, is if you're going to do this, again, you got to look at that, where that light was coming from. So I had the image flipped and the light on the mountain was coming from the right, but yet we knew that the sun was coming from the left. So I unflipped it, and now I got the mountain light matching the light from the sun. That makes it at least a little more plausible, right? So fun. You just got to say it's fun. And the cool thing is, again, with this augmentation, you could load your own mountain scene. You could load your own, you know, sunrise and throw these in there and do something that is a little bit in between, right? So it makes it kind of fun. Then the, oh, we already talked about sun rays. Dramatic is where you're adding, you do different kind of, well, you can see what it's doing. It's making it very crunchy. I'll offer to you. Not really my favorite one there. Same with matte, mystical, not super fun. LUTs are really something that you would do. These are like prearranged elements. So these are like prearranged. And what's nice is they show a preview of them. So this would be like the presets that I would see in Lightroom. So if I wanted let's say I wanted where was it? So that has kind of a film look, right? Where it's a little purpley. Here's sepia. So you could create some elements that are, again, just think of this as having artistic license, right? That you're just kind of playing around. And that's the equivalent of a preset. Those are the same things as presets. A texture overlay. You'd load a texture. I don't think I have anything. So I don't have any texture, so we won't worry about that. Glow. So these would be examples where, well, that's glow is not where I want it. I wish I had a way to, let's see if I have a way of picking it. Oh, no, doesn't like it. I gotta have something in there. So, this is one of those areas I would say you just play with, right? And again, any of these, the cool thing is any of these can be done as an individual brush or a radial mask if you're used to radial mask in Lightroom, or a gradient mask, which are used to in Lightroom. And you can do a luminosity, but the one concern I have is luminosity is, as you saw, it wasn't super selective. Like I'm used to luminosity masks in Photoshop, and this is nowhere near as selective as that. This is an interesting grain as an example. These are all very artistic things. These would be examples of where you'd be doing like grainy, like if you were emulating a film look. So you can see where you must have had like a push process 800 film. And then here's your fog. You can do different fogs. So this would be like, which could be very handy for like, you're adding a little bit of fog. I would say what would be good to use the fog is in a gradient where you might have you create an Orton effect in the background. But that's that piece. So I'm going to go to portrait. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Yeah. Question. You got a picture here that the base picture was taken years ago, for instance.
Uh-huh.
But in the last 10 minutes, you've completely changed it.
Yeah.
It's not even close to the
No.
original shot.
No, totally agree.
Is that picture eligible for critique? This one.
There's nothing for sure, an open category. And
But you say it had to be taken a year ago or within a year.
As far as if you've done the photo and then did a complete new edit on the photo in the last year.
No.
Okay, there's your answer.
No, it's not eligible for critique. Is that what?
Well, it's
Only
open
Only in
category for
open.
sure.
Yeah, open.
Yeah, open category, no problem. I think
Well,
in
even
assignment,
if it
the
was
idea is,
assignment, whatever the assignment might be.
yeah, in the assignment, it has to be something where you kind of did in the last year, right, Ann?
Right.
Okay.
But
Well, there's
if you applied all this kind of stuff to it last week, even though the base picture was 5 years old, whatever.
Uh-huh.
Does so that doesn't count as this year?
Correct. It would have to be in the open category
Yeah.
if it's over a year old.
Yeah, that's our current status on that.
I guess I'm just bringing it up as a philosophical discussion.
Sure, that's okay. But that's the current standings. I think if you had a question about Ann, take it to Ann and Tim, but that's where they stand right now, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
The assignment is actually an assignment to be done this year.
Or
It's like
within a
you're in
year.
school. You're in school and the teacher gives you an assignment. You can't go back and use your brother's essay from 2 years ago or your essay.
Yeah.
Now, Tom made a comment. not necessarily about our competition, but two things. Adding or removing elements should be disclosed, especially in a competition. And beware the location of shadows if you are adding sun or rays.
For sure.
And I'd also like to add that if you enter into outside competitions, always read all the rules carefully so that you don't get, if you pay money to put in images, make sure they're not disqualified and you're just, wasting your money. So always read the rules and try to be as fully aware when you submit something, even to an outside competition. So that was a good suggestion there, Tom, as well.
I totally agree.
Yes.
Oh, boy. I was just trying to find, oh, I know, I got to go to a different file source. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I got to go to a different, I want to do a portrait element here, and I need to go to a different folder source. So this would be how you would add, you could add like that whole folder, you could add it one time, or you can go in here and then come in here and then grab this. So this is the other area that a lot of people, when you hear reviews on Luminar, they really feel that the portrait enhancement is super, super handy. So I'm going into portrait. So you have the ability to do a AI skin enhancer. You have general portrait. You have the ability to go to add a high key effect or add an order effect. So, if you're into, so you can, like Kira here has a little bit of shine. See, it's gonna work on removing that little bit of shine on her forehead. Okay, I'll go crazy. And then it has the ability actually to do AI. It's going to look at the blemishes. Okay, and then you can say how much. Okay, so you can see where that's working out. Okay, so you can do these, and again, you can do them as an individual brush or do it as a global adjustment. But that's pretty handy. The next one that's pretty handy is they have an eye enhancer. So we're going to go in here a little bit. So the idea is that you could add shape to the eyes. So watch what goes on. Now this again, this is artistic. So, oh no, I'm sorry, that's the eye enhancer. So look what it did is it super sharpened it. And then now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to enlarge the eyes. I'm going to go crazy so you can see the effect. But see how I gave her kind of googly eyes, but sometimes that can be handy. See, maybe I'm going too fast. Do everybody see that what's going on there? I personally like the eye enhancer. That's super great. I like the eye whitening in case people have a little bit of grayness or yellowness. See how, if you're looking at it now, the eyes went white. So there's without it, the whitening. And then there's the white. So that's pretty cool. Here's the other thing that's a bit probably controversial, but interesting. But some people would like their face, they might look, the angle might be a little different. Their face looks a little oval and they want it to be more elongated. This will do. So what that's doing is that's bringing her whole face in. So her face is getting longer and longer as I go. Okay, so there's that like 96%, and then there's with it not. Now, again, you would have to say that that's probably too much, right? But these are things that, if you were to go into and try to do this in Lightroom or Photoshop, it'd be pretty challenging, okay? So Kira didn't like to wear lipstick, so I'm going to redden her lips a little bit. Let's see how that looks. But the trade-off is these blemishes came out a little bit too. Plus, it's coming in her teeth a little bit. So So you can see you gotta use things with a little bit of, and then here's one thing. John Robert Williams taught me how to whiten teeth, and there you can do it with one slider. And Cure in particular had a little bit of need for this whitening. So you can see where I slide it over, all of a sudden I got her teeth are popping. If I do enlarge the eyes just a little bit, and then let's see what the face light does. So the face light, if the portrait was a little dark, I could bring that down a little bit. So pretty amazing how you can take a portrait and let's see. Well, if I had my swiper, I could show you. So this is where we were, and this is where if I reset it. That's probably not that much, but that kind of gives you the idea. Okay, and then high key. This would be the ability now to take the background and white. Well, now that's whitening her. I don't like that. So, but this would be a tool you'd use for just trying to get everything to pop a little bit. On this, in her case, I think it overdoes it. We're getting too much on her face. I would probably want to use this where I could probably brush it in different way, So, but the portrait enhancer and the skin enhancer, I think, are particularly. Let's see if go back to the skin enhancer. So you see that shine. Yeah.
Can you isolate just the background with a mask?
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
Okay.
So this is the shine removal, and let's see how it did. It might have been too much because I can see it's doing some other effects that I'm not too happy with. But oh, I know why, because we're not doing there's the amount. So what it did is it kind of made the skin kind of powdery. That YouTube filter you'll see where the skin's real powdery. This is very similar to that, right? So interesting, a little bit too much. So I would say, as in many things, I would use these with judicious effect. The other thing that's down, well, and then the Pro. So I'm going to go into the Pro here. Let's see. So this has different filters. It has other elements. I don't really use this too much. I haven't really used this Pro element too much. One thing I saw tonight that I thought was particularly good is it shows all our history, which if you're a Photoshop user, this is super handy. So you could go back to a different point in the history and get get different views, so that's handy. Sometimes you did it and then you can always go back to the original. So this takes us back. This is one way to go back to the original shot. Okay, so and then the three dots. Let's see, three dots. Oh, these give you like revert to original, sync adjustments. I can't read the other. Oh wait, let's see.
Copy adjustments.
Oh, copy and then hide histogram. So you could do things and do it multiple times. So for $99, and you've got the opportunity to do some things where it's kind of a one-click. That could be pretty handy for people. If they're feeling like they're super challenged with some of the other some interesting ones. If they're super challenged with where these elements are. Oh, here's a collection. Here's a collection on portraits. So here's a female portrait. So like here's a one and done, and I can adjust it inside how much I want. How cool is that, right? So I can literally go there. I can go, so there's an example, and I can go see, I can adjust it so that it's not, there's the desert, so it's probably very warm, and I can bring it back. So I have the ability to take these big, large adjustments, but then I can say, well, that's overdone. I can take it back, which that's super cool. So you can go to these looks elements. You got street, landscape, lifestyle, dramatic. If you're doing if you're doing drone photography, it's got a thing for aerial type stuff. So pretty cool. And you can take any of these looks and create them as your own look, and then it would show up there, and you could just say, like, if you're a portrait photographer and you say, this works for me all the time, this is where I want to start, you could save a look and then apply it to every photo that you bring in. So that's pretty handy and very similar to some of the elements that you would get into with Lightroom. So super handy. Okay. The only thing I really wasn't able to show you was the before and after. Plus, on the top part there, they had a quick grab for the crop tool. You might see it. I just can't show it to you because this toolbar is hiding where I can get at it. I'm trying to move it. I have no idea. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe, let me see what happens here. Hold on.
Yeah, I've run into that with Lightroom, trying to work with people.
Oh, I found it here. So can you now see it? Now, if I do this and then I go, let's say I take this, I can go and now it'll go, there's the after, here's the before. To me, I wish I probably Lightroom has something like this, but I love this because sometimes when you're doing editing, you get so into your current look, you wonder how far you departed from the look you wanted to, how over much you did it. And this really allows you a way of going, oh, wait a minute, I did that. And then here's your quick crop access. Okay. I'm not sure why it's not clicking on it. And then you have a way you can export directly here. You can do a shot and quickly send it out. But if you're round tripping in Lightroom, what it would do is it would give you an opportunity at the top right to apply. And then in Lightroom, when it goes back, round trips back to Lightroom, it will save a copy with the Luminar edit. So that's my preferred way, but that's because I'm a Lightroom guy anyway. But if you're using this by itself, you could export this and, or you could even open in, like you can see now, I can open it in Lightroom or Photoshop and do further editing. That's super cool. I can export the image back to my catalog so that I would have a Luminar version, and then probably I would assume that would allow me to keep the old image as it was. So that's kind of my tour. I will
Great.
try to see if I can get everybody a discount code, but Skylum is the provider, and they come out with discount elements all the time. They do have Luminar Neo, and the difference with Luminar Neo that I understand is that it's all AI. It's all one click. I don't believe you have as much option as doing these manual edits, and I think that would be not my first. Now, full disclosure, I have not used Luminar Neo. I'm only kind of based on what I saw from the advertising. So that might be another option for you.
One question. Now I saw you can export it into Photoshop or Lightroom. Will
Yeah.
Luminar allow third-party plugins? Do they have any, like you can use Luminar in Photoshop? Does it work like a plugin in Photoshop? Or you're standing
let
alone
me
and take it into?
Yeah, let me see. So if I go to my Lightroom, let me see. I probably have to change. Hold on, I got to figure out. Oh boy, I got to go find my my. Oh God.
If they don't, I'm sure they probably would start allowing some third-party plugins if they had collaboration with other companies.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my,
Everybody's growing.
yeah, what's happened is I hid that tool panel. Now I don't know how to stop the video. Oy.
I can't help you.
I know, I know.
Are you in full screen? Can you go out of?
Yeah, let me. Yeah. Oof. Oof. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Here we go. Stop video. Okay, so I'm gonna stop video. We'll start video. Let's see. No, stop recording. Stop share. There we go. Okay, so I'm back. So here, you guys wanted to see how I would do it if I was a Lightroom user. So hold on, I'm going to share screen again. So I'm in Lightroom Classic. Just share that. Okay. So can everybody see my Lightroom, my gallery?
Right now it's blank. There we go.
Okay, so I would pick it. I'd pick an image. I'd right click on it, and when I go to edit in, I would be able to pick Luminar as one of my plugins.
Okay.
That's how I'd round trip it. What it would do is it loaded in a Luminar. Well, let's just do it. It loaded in a Luminar. I will edit as a copy with my adjustments. That way I don't lose my original. And then it'll bring up Luminar, hopefully. But you guys won't be able to see Luminar because I'm not sharing it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So that's how you do it. I'm going to just verify. So let me so I'm going to stop the share there. I'm going to go to the screen. Let's see if I can. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to share that. Okay, so when I'm done, you see the top left and it has the apply key.
Yep.
That's what I would do when I'm done with the photo. So I'm going to just let's pick something. Let's pick something that's not obvious. So I'll do the black and white. See what happens when this is like split toning. I'm gonna give it a little bit of black and white with a little bit of color. Then I hit apply. Now I'll have to stop share, but it'll go back to Lightroom as a new image. Okay, so that's how it stopped that. So now when I go into my catalog and share that, there it is. There's that image as a new image in my Lightroom catalog. You can you see it now?
Mhm.
Yep. Now,
So
Jim raised his hand. Did you do that on purpose there, Jim? Unmute?
Yeah.
I was muted.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it says you raised your hand. I'm
Oh,
wondering
yeah.
what that was.
Yeah, that's okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Might not know you did it, Jim.
Okay, so that's pretty much the
Yeah.
introduction I had. I hope that was helpful. I know there's a lot of our members out there, a lot more powerful editors than me, but I thought this was an interesting one. It's probably a really good one down the road, Steve, for a discussion group, because this would be a kind of thing where a group of people sitting around a couple of screens playing and sharing wins and losses. This would be a great example of that, and I would encourage that to be with Lightroom too. People editing photos and then talk about how they edit them, right there when we do live meetings. So.
Great. So that's it.
Yeah, My only other
Yeah.
plug that I would have to say for my
Steve?
year, this year of non-Adobe stuff is Topaz denoise. If you're a wildlife photographer, I have found, and Helen Denoyer is another person that says the same thing. Topaz denoise just is amazing for taking your high ISO photos, to get the shot, and does an amazing job on cleaning up the noise in an image. So that's another one that I would recommend. They have a trial you can look at. And then Tom says he likes Sharpen AI Topaz as well, which I haven't used as much, but I've heard good things about it as well. So those are two. Topaz is something that I probably poo-pooed back in the day, but now that I've looked at it, that's another one. That's longer
Steve?
janky.
Steve, you have a question?
No, I was just giving a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
I
Steve.
actually do have a question.
Jim? Good.
I'm not familiar with presets that much at all, and it's probably a dumb question, but it's pretty self-explanatory. But how do they determine what they think is going to be the best, or how do they actually come up with a preset? Any idea?
Yeah, so you're talking about Lightroom, correct?
I use Photoshop more than Lightroom.
Okay, so I only use presets in Lightroom, but you can take the current edit of a photo, okay? And that's probably the same for Photoshop because they're so close together, right? And you can go up to your menu bar up there and say save as, and you could, so
You're saving your settings.
yeah, that's what a preset
Okay.
is. It's basically saving your it's saving your edit elements as a preset, so that the next photo you could just apply the preset. And I'm looking in Lightroom to see it's not. I'm looking to see
Yeah.
where it would be.
In Lightroom, they have one of their sepia settings, and I've altered the tonality, and then I've saved that as like a custom preset. If you see some of the stuff I post on Facebook with that warm tone, you'll notice a lot of them are probably very similar in that, because it's just a one-click things. Then I have to sometimes go in and adjust contrast and fine tune it just a little because of the tonal change. But yeah, you can take a preset that's already there a lot of times, make some changes, adjustments to that preset, and then resave it as your own, and then call it your own name.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in the gallery module, I could do it by right clicking on it and then going down to the develop, and then it showed where I could go to but in the develop module of Lightroom, let's see. Yeah, even in the develop module, you go on the, you go to settings, and then it would say you can copy settings. You can do that, or you can come down to yeah, yeah, so you can copy the settings, and then you can create a preset with that, Jim.
Okay. I figured that's what it was, something like on that order. I just haven't worked with them.
Yeah, so the two ways, like if you're a wedding photographer, these presets can be super helpful because you've got 2,000 photos from a wedding and you're trying to get through them and not kill yourself. So you would go and you would look for some of these settings. It would be like, oh, this is my soft, first kiss look, whatever. But the other one is that you can edit a photo, and then in develop, you can click on photos and sync them too. So I do that a lot. like if I do a portrait set, there's a lot of times that I'll edit one photo, and if it was in the same light, I'll click on that photo and then the other ones. And the first photo that's clicked.
Like a batch?
Yeah, and when I hit
Yeah.
the sync button, all the other photos will sync to that one photo. That makes your life very tolerable if you're shooting several hundred photos in a portrait session.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everybody. I hope this was helpful. Appreciate your patience and time.
Yeah. Good to see everybody.